Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Welcome, dear friends, to Kardec Radio and the Spirit. This is out of Virginia in one more online talk, inspirational talk, Friday inspirational talk, and it's almost Halloween. In the United States, it's a big deal. Our headquarters is in the United States, so it's a time for us to think about spiritual intervention,
Right, this is a
spiritual influence in our lives. And for those who have children right now at YouTube, Kardec Radio, and the Spiritists out of Virginia Facebook page, you will have the opportunity of having a whole online class with Luciana and Paloma at the Spiritists out of Virginia about Halloween. Wonderful. So share the good news with your children, grandchildren, with your students, whomever children you know, just connect. And we're going to begin. Carol Correa is here with us to share a message. Right, Carol?
Right, Vanessa. Good evening, dear friends. Tonight, we are going to read a message from the book Our Daily Bread by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. This is message 76, entitled Witnesses. Therefore, since we too are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us leave behind everything that hinders. Paul to the Hebrews 12:1. This concept of Paul of Tarsus deserves special consideration by the students of the gospel. Each human existence is always an invaluable day of struggle, a generous step toward infinite ascension, and whatever their situation may be, people will always be surrounded by an enormous legion of witnesses. We are not only referring to those who are part of our own family circle, but above all, the friends and benefactors of each individual who watch over him or her in the different situations of life from the lofty realms of higher spirituality. All over the world, disciples are surrounded by a large cloud of spirit witnesses who follow their every step, taking note of their attitudes, for no one has come to the earthly experience by chance without solid reason based on love or justice. Generous spirits endorsed the requests of the repentant soul prior to its reincarnation. Judges took part in the process related to it, and friends interceded in the service of assistance, contributing to organizing the particulars of the redemptive struggles. These friends and guides steadfastly watch over their ward throughout the new task, and speak to him or her without words in the innermost reaches of the conscience. Parents and children, husbands and wives, siblings and blood relatives of the world are the protagonists of the evolutionary drama, whereas these watchful observers usually remain on the other side of life. This very day, do as much good as possible for your partners in the struggle, and do not forget those who, full of love and concern, watch over you in spirit.
Thank you, Carol. And now we invite everyone to pray. Let us pray, because when we pray, we connect, we can absorb more of the messages that we're going to receive. We can be also receiving spiritual treatment during this hour, whether you're home, in your car, in your work, anywhere. It's an opportunity to be receiving and also giving to others good energies, good vibrations, and the healing. Let us pray. Dear Mother, Father God, we rejoice, knowing that life goes on, knowing that we are spirits living on earth temporarily, and that we are destined to progress and to connect with one another. May tonight we learn about the dynamics of our relationship with other minds and manage more wisely such interactions. We also would like that this moment be of greater balance to all of us. We visualize healing enveloping all of us at home. Everyone who has their name in the book of prayers. And we visualize these calming and soothing vibrations enveloping the whole planet Earth, cooling the flames of misunderstandings and increasing bridges of friendship. We rejoice in gratitude to you as we feel inspired to learn more together. With your permission, we begin this hour of learning and serving, and so be it. All right. So let us begin, right, Carol? From the beginning. This is where we're going to begin. So let us go here and learn with Spiritism, which is a science that teaches us about the beauty of us as spirits. We're spirits who have an origin, who have a destiny, and our nature and the relationship in two worlds, our relationship with the material world. In the Spirit's book by Kardec, we learn that the two worlds connect, and that the discarnate spirits communicate with us, influence us more than we imagine. But who are we after all? Because some people, they find it so interesting that this happens, but why? Who am I? Who are we? We are mortal spirits who think continuously, and that's the source of it all. When we go to the Medium's book by Kardec, we learn that in chapter 1, are there spirits? We are spirits. And he ends the chapter. He begins with a question. He ends with a question, several questions instead. And he asks, well, if we, while on earth, we want to communicate with the ones we love, Why wouldn't we be willing to do so when we depart and we're in the spiritual realm? It will be also natural. So the main thing that makes us communicate is the fact that we think continuously. So basically, we're archers. Emmanuel and André Luiz, in several books, they talk about the fact that our thoughts are emanations of us. And we have a mental bow. André Luiz mentions that analogy in the book Mechanisms of Mediumship. As we think, it's as if we have an arrow and our mind is this bow sending these thoughts out. But what happens then? We need to understand that these mental darts have quality because they are mental matter. They have minute particles that André Luiz says, names them mental corpuscles because thought is matter. When I think, when you think, we're co-creating thought forms. It's as if we get the clay of the universe created by God and we co-create several different things. It's so interesting when I hear people say, I'm not an artist. Well, that's what you think, because deep inside we are. We're co-creators. As we think and we feel, we're co-creating. So how can we be harmonious and healthy and serene if all day long I am in these mental battles? These are the things we're going to talk about. These minute particles that form our thought are mental atoms. André Luiz uses those terms in different vibratory conditions. Imagine a superior spirit, pure spirit, or happy spirit, or good spirit. Their mental matter must be harmonious. Our goal is to achieve that level. So let's put a pause here and talk about when people say, the other day, my daughter Virginia was saying that the teacher constantly says, you're going to give me a heart attack. You're going to give me a heart. If you keep saying it, you're creating it. So be careful when people say, oh, that almost killed me. Oh, I hate it. These are strong words that we should ponder, evaluate, substitute, because these are creations that are stronger than thoughts. Because in our mouth, we emanate vitality. We call it ectoplasm. When we associate our thoughts and verbalize them, we're really manifesting. We're creating living matter, and that is one step closer to being manifested in our lives. So when people say, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, don't say that, because your body's hearing it. Masaru Emoto, the scientist who identified how our thoughts, feelings, words, they affect the vibrations of water. He concluded, we are mostly water physically. So if I say, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm a dog, I'm a cat, I'm this, that, and the other, I am co-creating that reality. That's why the power of affirmations, visualizations, and the wisdom of words being coherent. So when we talk about our co-creation, just to reinforce, we're creating thought forms or images that we send out through our atmosphere of the mind, characterizing our presence. In the book, Liberation by André Luiz, we see a passage in which in the discarnate plane, the spiritual realm, some spirits have a special apparatus that they use to measure the vibratory field of the person. They go close and they can identify the vibrations. So I can come here and present myself as a very harmonious person, but if deep inside all I think is something completely different, in the spiritual realm, I'm not going to look like I do here. I'm going to look like I vibrate. So who are we? We need to know who we are. We're not going to change ourselves until we identify, accept. Some people don't want to see who they are because they are afraid. But friends, how are we going to remodel ourselves? Like remodeling a house if we don't see it. We cannot tell the architect, go there, remodel for me. He's going to say, what color do you want? What type of window and door? You need to look, face it, and say, I don't like this door. I don't like this window. Can we change it? Same for us. We reincarnated to be better. What do I need to remodel? What do I need to regenerate in myself? And look, without shame, because that's life. God allows us to evolve. He created us so. So why are we going to be ashamed? Oh, I don't want to see who I am. Well, then you're going to postpone your change till a disease comes. If we don't change voluntarily, life will push us to that. But why? If it's not a disease, then it's an accident, then it's a loved one through a loved one. Why? Why wait if I can voluntarily step forward and think, what am I co-creating daily? If I keep doubting myself, I'm going to emanate this self-doubt, and then people are going to doubt me. If I don't accept myself, I'm going to emanate rejection, and people are going to pick up on that and then reject. It's like a magnet. Each person's aura contains atomic currents of thoughts that are common to themselves. So, atoms, mental corpuscles, forming our field that we call aura. We're emanating. You and I know of several studies in the Kirlian photo by Russian scientists that by our finger in a machine, we can tell if we're doing well or not. Barbara and Brennan, a physicist who used to work at NASA, very spiritual person, then opened a new field of work and studies in people's auras. And she wrote the book, Hands of Light, which is a masterpiece and talks about several studies and how by identifying the aura, we can tell what the person needs to adjust. So what is happening to us? We need to identify. My thoughts and my feelings will generate that, and we're talking about a multi-dimensional construction. And then by doing so, I create a thought wave. When I think of things that happen every day, Andrea Luiz explains that I create long waves. When I am in prayer and meditation, I create medium waves. And when I think of altruistic thoughts and actions, I create very short waves. And you know that short waves go far, very far. So if I am a person that I am daily thinking, paying the bills, doing it, and that's all that I do, I don't master selecting a time of the day to do it. I spend all day long. I'll be vibrating very low and connecting with minds that also vibrate very low. But Vanessa, who is going to pay the bills? Well, you don't pay the bills all day long, do you? You don't. So you need to balance. I need to counterbalance thoughts of cooking, cleaning, caring for daily measures with prayers, meditations, and extraordinary conditions when I forget about myself to think of others. If I do that all day long, I'll be able to shift my aura and connect with other minds. And that's where we're going to talk about the dynamics of our thought. When we as spirits think continuously all the time, we do, different from animals, the spiritual principle that is connected to animals thinks fragmentedly. It's like they think and then it's it goes to sleep, let's say, the conscience. We are continuously producing at human level. And that will use the universal cosmic principle or fluid with our will, which are the hands, as Kardec says in the Genesis, our will, hands, to work with that clay. And that thought will condense and according to intensity, frequency, the quality will saturate. Saturate is like the more I think and I feel, the more it permeates the molecules of my spiritual body, the perispirit, and then materializes. And when it materializes, according to quality, frequency, and intensity of our thoughts, it will manifest. Think about it. I also absorb elements from other minds. As much as the physical body may ingest poisonous food, the perispiritual body also absorbs elements that degrade it, which will be reflected onto the physical cells. Well, this is the case of our interactions with other minds. As Carol and Daisy weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, talked about constructive and mental and destructive mental currents. That's what we're talking about. As I connect with constructive mental currents, I will absorb elements that will harmonize, bring health. If I connect with destructive, it will make me absorb elements that will be harmful to me. Halloween is just 2 days away, and many people start indulging in watching horror movies. And they think, I'm just watching. No, you are not just watching. You're changing your whole body. You're changing your neurochemistry. You're changing your mental connections. You are allowing spirits who don't know any better to come and play a role in your life. To illustrate that, I'm going to ask Carol Correa to now share with us how some spirits show up in our lives and they may change our way of living because they influence us more than we can imagine. Right, Carol?
Right, Vanessa. We are going to base our exemplification on a case study reported to us by Allan Kardec himself in the Spiritus magazine of 1859, to be specific, May of 1859. To facilitate our understanding of this case, we are going to use a few images that will guide our reflections together, dear friends. So let us begin. This particular case, reported by Kardec to all of us, is entitled The Story of a Spirit, and it focuses on how a particular spirit that communicated with Kardec during his time influences many who are around him unknowingly. So let us observe these facts and reflect upon how we ourselves are constantly under the influence of discarnate spirits as well. Again, for everyone's reference, this account was first published in May 1859 in the Spiritist magazine by Allan Kardec. Currently, we also have access to the same work that is continued by our dear Vanessa and the team in both realms, and the magazine is available to us in English through the Spiritus Magazine's website and through apps that can be downloaded free of charge on our phones. So we have wisdom literally available to us at our fingertips. Now let us go back to the case as it was reported by Kardec. This particular spirit that Kardec tells us about first came to him in one of the mediumistic meetings that he conducted. The spirit tells Kardec and all of us that he first met the medium through whom he communicated in his youth, that they were classmates. And acting very impulsively, they got into a fight. At first, the medium didn't quite remember the communicating spirit, but upon being reminded of the altercation that they got involved in, the medium could mentally locate where they had formed a bond. So let us put a pause here and reflect upon the importance of our relationships, even early on in our younger years. We may say to ourselves as parents and as educators, oh, well, let our children choose whom they interact with. They need to develop their own taste. They need to be independent. They need to learn to make choices. They need autonomy. Yes and no. Yes, of course, they have free will. Yes, of course, God has granted them the same right as God has granted all of us. But before they reach 25 years of age, they have not developed the prefrontal cortex yet, responsible for discernment. So it is our responsibility as educators, as grandparents, as parents, mostly, of course, to guide our children's interactions, to select the friends that they spend their most time with. Because as Vanessa kindly explained to us, we form mental associations with one another in both realms. So if our children are surrounded with spirits who are Balic in nature, they will become reactive and they will attract other minds that will encourage them to be reactive as well. And we can see, dear friends, through this case reported by Kardec, that these connections last beyond the physical life, as this spirit who obviously had already left his physical body on earth reconnects with the medium. So this is an alert for us as parents, grandparents, educators, to remind ourselves that we are responsible for the minds that our children connect with. And we further learn through these mediumistic communications, dear friends, that not only did this discarnate spirit connect with the medium whom he had been friends with while incarnated. But the spirit also reports going about the streets of Paris at the time and interfering in conversations. So the passerbyers, the incarnate passerbyers who were walking about, didn't even realize that they were being influenced, as Vanessa also just told us in the Spirit's book by Kardec. We learn that we are influenced by spirits more than we can imagine. And this is a living example of how this occurs. As it is illustrated in this picture, dear friends, oftentimes we are carrying out our day-to-day conversations, and we may imagine that this conversation is quote unquote private, that this conversation is occurring within the four walls of our home or office. And yet now, when we look at life from the higher realm, from the spiritual realm, or with the bifocal lenses, when we come to realize that there is life in two worlds and that these worlds constantly interact, we then realize that our most private conversations are very likely being observed by minds that we are unaware of. This is why sometimes a thought may come into mind that can be constructive. For instance, it could be a thought that inspires us to speak more kindly. As Vanessa said, when we speak, we share living energy. So when we are influenced by higher minds, superior spirits, they may inspire us to speak more kindly, to speak more patiently, to embrace someone with our words constructively. On the other hand, through the same process, when we suddenly feel an impulse of rage, an impulse of reactivity, we may rest assured that we are being observed by other minds and that these minds are connecting to us because of the wavelengths that we are emitting that are similar to theirs. And as they connect to our minds, they very likely add more to the fire of our emotions and inspire us to be more aggressive. This is why, at times, in certain circumstances of our lives, we may, quote unquote, explode. There's even a children's book entitled My Mouth is a Volcano. At times, we as adults may feel as though our mouths are volcanoes as well. And later, we feel like we don't even know why we said what we said. This is an alert to us to help us realize that other minds that are connected with us through affinity of feelings and thoughts may be inspiring us to be destructive with our words. This is why it is important for us to know of our tendencies. This is important. This is why it is so important for us to meditate upon what we reincarnated to remodel within ourselves, so that as we master our own tendencies, we may make more harmonious connections, mental connections, because we are going to be observed. We are going to have witnesses from the other side of life, no matter what. And this particular spirit whom Kardec met through the medium of his time reported that not only did he interfere unknowingly in conversations, he also sought for entertainment. He went to theaters at his time, and delighted himself with watching funny performances. And we may say, but Carol, how does this apply to us currently? Dear friends, do we think that when we go out for Halloween, or when we watch a horror movie, or when we dress up in costumes that are very, very graphic, we are by ourselves? No, dear friends, even when we are having quote unquote fun, we are connecting with spirits of the sort as well, who like to have the same type of fun as we do. So if we go out, for instance, for a barbecue, spirits who also like to take part in these gatherings will accompany us. If we watch pornographic films, we will have spirits who are also addicted to this practice connected to us as well. If we like eating candy, even past Halloween, other spirits who also enjoyed eating candy while incarnated will connect to us. If we like going to happy hours, as we can see here, the scarlet minds that also take pleasure in feeding their senses, even though they are no longer attached to a physical body, will also accompany us. This is why at times we may sit at a bar at a quote unquote happy hour, and we may drink a glass of beer, and then before we know it, one goes and turns into three, that turns into four, and we don't even remember what we did that night anymore. Why? Because spirits like Peter, that is the name of the spirit according to Kardec's report, spirits like Peter are very likely there joining us and encouraging us to drink more. They may be whispering in our ears, come on, one more drink, and I would like to enjoy it too. And we may be wondering, but Carol, how can spirits who are free of their physical bodies enjoy a drink during a happy hour? Well, dear friends, they act like vampires, sucking in the alcoholic emanations that are emitted through our glasses. So they drink vicariously through us, sucking our energy and those emanations. Yes, dear friends, this is why sometimes there are some of us who may develop the habit of drinking day, and the amount of alcohol that we consume may become greater and greater because we are not drinking alone. The scarlet spirits who enjoy alcoholic beverages are most certainly there. Are they at restaurants? For certain, they are. They may already be sitting where we are planning to sit. And this is why also we may eat even more than we planned and not feel satisfied, because they are sucking the vitality, the energy from the food that we are eating. That's why sometimes when we go to restaurants, we may feel depleted rather than energized when we sit for a meal. Knowing of this, dear friends, encourages all of us to pray before a meal, because as we pray, we emit other types of wavelengths, as Vanessa explained, medium-sized wavelengths rather than long ones. And we are then able to connect with our protecting spirits, who will readily, God willing, form a protective current around our table, so other discarnate spirits of lower order, like Peter, don't eat with us by sucking the vitality of the food that we are consuming. This is also why sometimes we plan to have one piece of chocolate and we end up eating a whole box of chocolate, because spirits are there asking us for more. So this is a call for us to realize that those interactions between the two worlds influence us again in the smallest actions that we take. This is why we now are better equipped to eat responsibly, to seek for entertainment responsibly, to hold conversations more responsibly, knowing that there is a cloud of witnesses around us, even if our physical eyes may not be able to perceive such clouds. And Peter, as Kardec reports, was a little bit tired of this life of entertainment. So he felt attracted by Kardec's work. He doesn't even know, reports Kardec in the Spirits magazine, how he was attracted to Kardec's home. But in this picture, dear friends, in this depiction, we see that Peter observes Kardec doing the works of the codification. So we also, dear friends, have an important lesson here for us. We know that if we would like to shift our vibrations, to allow our vibrations to be of a more altruistic nature, we shall do the works of the good, thinking of the collective good, because Kardec constantly thought about the collective good. His home was an outpost for spirits who were in need of support. That visit that Peter, the discarnate spirit, made to Kardec was a turning point in his evolution. It was then that Peter came to realize that he could make different choices, that he didn't have to use his time, even as a discarnate spirit, from sensation to sensation, only thinking about himself. So we too, dear friends, when we decide to do the good for others, when we transform our home into a dwelling where we nourish our souls and not only our bodies, we can rest assured that discarnate spirits may come to our home to learn with us. Right at this moment, there may be a cloud of discarnate spirits interested in learning about life in two worlds. So we are not alone in the constructive sense of the word as well. When we choose to take constructive actions, we also attract spirits who, because of this effort, may choose to take a constructive pathway as well. So as we learn, we benefit, we open the door for others to learn. So this is an invitation for all of us to transform our homes into a place a temple of learning, a temple of prayer, a temple of helping others, so that we can be useful in both realms of life, as Kardec was and continues to be. And because our friend Peter was inspired by Kardec altruism, he decided to try to help. As he was wandering the streets of Paris, he realized that there was a burglar in that particular neighborhood. So he tried to prevent the burglar from attacking a store, stealing from a store. And we see that when we think destructively, such as when we consider stealing, other minds that are less evolved also connect to us, as we can see in the depiction there. And the burglar, says Peter to Kardec and all of us, decided to drink alcohol. And he was being inspired by the less illuminated spirit to drink and numb himself. So when we make the choice to drink alcohol, because we are hurting our physical body, numbing our senses, we are attracting spirits who think and feel the same way. Peter, even, dear friends, watched a game of poker in order to try to inspire the store owner to stop the burglary from happening. So we can see that in the smallest events of our lives, the most innocent events or occurrences of our lives, we are being watched, even though we don't know it. So, a question for us, based upon our daily habits, can we already tell what kind of spirits we may be connecting to? Because we are most certainly making connections. So the question for us is, whom are we connecting to on a daily basis? This is a good reflection question for all of us. And Peter was able to inspire the store owner to go downstairs and stop the burglary from happening. And feeling better for having been useful to others in his first altruistic action in a while, Peter then decides, at the advice of the medium, to become even more useful by inspiring a friend to be courteous and to be kind to his circle of friends, rather than to spread slander and gossip and division. So Peter then started feeling the inner satisfaction of being altruistic, of being useful, after having wasted much of his life after life repeating the patterns that he had cultivated while incarnated. So finally, dear friends, Peter was learning to use his time well, eternally speaking. What does it mean to use our time well, eternally speaking? This involves making sure that we are being useful, either by nourishing our souls for immortality or by serving others, as Peter was then learning to do. And for the first time, dear friends, after these altruistic actions, Peter started feeling peace of mind. So this is a beautiful, true account of inner transformation, because Peter decided to use his free will to build different mental connections through much effort and the guidance of the good spirits that are always ready to support us if we are willing to mentally connect with them. So, what kind of spirits are we connecting to, dear friends? Let us meditate in this piece of wisdom offered to us by Kardec as we pass the word back to our dear Vanessa.
Thank you, Carol. Now we want to bring back the reflection that Carol started bringing to us. What is our mental emission? What is it? What are we emanating? It's important to one day, at least one day, once, take a notebook and write down, what do I usually think and feel? Write it down. Don't analyze on the same day. A week later, go back and take a look. You'll be surprised that you think things that you don't realize how often you do. And you feel things that often you put aside, but they're more frequent than we imagine. It's important to observe and to think, as André Louis says, to identify the mental inductors. The focus of our attention becomes a mental inductor that is going to trigger, mental trigger, that is going to induce connections. So to own our mental currents, for them to be healthy, I need to identify the triggers. What am I usually connecting to? Where is my attention? Do I constantly think, like when I'm talking about of others, instead of things that elevate? Do I focus only on entertaining myself? It's so interesting because majority of us are adults, but our mindset is often of a child. When adults say, I only do what I want, when I want, with whomever I want, this is a child, spoiled, by the way, because the adult often will do what he doesn't want with other people he doesn't want to be around, but will do it, the Christian, the spiritist, the very spiritual and centered adult, will do it without thinking of themselves altruistically. And when I look at something like a painting, André Luiz mentions that in the book Mechanisms of Mediumship. When I look at a painting, when I read a post, a message, I listen to something, I watch something, those are mental triggers. My attention is there, I'm connecting, creating mental waves, connecting. So I need to think, where is the focus of my attention? The music I listen, that I listen to, the goodness that I share with others when I reach out, and the people I work with as well. For example, talking about meetings. In the book, in the realms of mediumship, we see this case of in a mediumistic meeting, but it could be any meeting. When people emanate their mental darts and everybody's connecting somewhat. We're affecting people, people are affecting us, spirits are affecting us, we're affecting them. And this is the most critical part of it all, our daily mental battles. As in chapter 20 of the book, The Realms of Mediumship, this woman was seated down at her bed, and her relationship with her husband is really difficult. He's having an affair with somebody else. She doesn't know who that is, but she sits down and keeps wondering, and then she focuses on somebody whom she guesses is the potential affair of her husband. And Andrea Lewis describes that the more she thinks of the woman, it's as if she's evoking the woman. The woman is incarnated like her. It's as if she's almost materializing in front of this woman. And Andrea Lewis says that this is like the mental battle. And he concludes, millions of homes can be compared to a battlefield where thoughts fight with thoughts, causing the most varied forms of anguish and repulsion. Today, I read in the BBC News, thanks to Mentor Joseph's guidance, because I usually don't read those news, but he said today you need to because it's a true case of what we're going to talk about tonight. A true case of a woman, 66-year-old woman, married to a 78-year-old man. They were celebrating at their home the birthday of one of them, and some of their children were on Zoom. And at some point, the woman hears the husband saying something, belittling her. She decides to take a knife and stab him once. He runs to the phone, calls 911. And when he's on the phone, she stabs him again and then again. And then she picks up the phone and says, I killed my husband because I couldn't take it any longer. After many months, the jury in 10 votes against 2, decided that she'll be in jail for the rest of her life. What happened there? She claims that the husband was a bully, used to belittle her. Then what do? You kill the person? They lived in a mental battle every day, just like Andrea Lewis is sharing here. And many of us are in those types of relationship. If not with the husband or the wife, it's with their children, our children, or the neighbor, or the colleague at work, or the boss, or someone, even in the spiritist movement. Daily sending mental darts and receiving mental darts, sending mental darts, receiving mental darts, until one of us make a decision to do something. Why? So for us, we're spiritists, we have an invitation. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, there is a chapter that talks about just that in a subtopic, dual, mental battle, physical battle. We no longer go and physically battle people. We may be in this mental battle because I agree, I disagree, I don't like what you said, you don't like it, then we're thinking about it. We accumulate resentment, and then at some point, because we don't know how to forgive daily, we're going to avenge the other one. We're not alone in those occasions either. We're automatically connected with all the incarnate and discarnates that think just like us. That's why it's important to go back to the first question. Who are we? Because when I know who I am, I know my spiritual company too. And then, as Carol said, I will know how to tame my addictions, for example. Who is with me eating and drinking and watching sex and bad-mouthing people and doing the whole 9 yards of what we do? Like-minded minds. So if I want good spirits to be with us, what do I need to do? First, substitute unhealthy mental thoughts, mental darts, by healthy ones. What are the healthy ones? Kindness. In the Medium's book, and also in the book After Death by Leon Denis, we learn that kindness attracts good spirits. But true kindness, not the fake. True kindness. Being kind, being generous, being loving, being open, understanding to people will attract good spirits that will help us catapult ourselves from where we are to another level. So today, you and I have an invitation, if we can wrap up in one simple message, is let's push the button of kindness. And kindness is not like smiling and say, oh, hi, how are you? In a very mellow voice. No, being kind is to be considerate, is to be respectful. Kindness is so broad. It's not only this appearance. We're talking about the profound kindness when we really care, when we really reach out. We're talking about being charitable. Right, Carol?
Absolutely, Vanessa, like Kardec showed us in the case that we discussed.
Yes. Right?
Right.
So now we bring here Luciana and Paloma because they were kindly stimulating our children, talking about a kind Halloween. Right, Paloma?
Yes, we were calling it Happy Halloween because the same theme here, the kids learned what to attract and how we attract. And then we put that in the context of Halloween. And I guess it applies to the adults too, because adults go around with their kids trick or treating. So, a good reminder for us that we should be aware of our mental connections during Halloween. Are we looking to spook people, trick people, or can we express kindness during that? The Halloween, you will have kids coming to your door. So, how could we express kindness? It's a great opportunity. And Luciana was explaining to the kids some scenarios, right, Lu?
Yes, so we brought to them many scenarios, and as I saw you guys saying, what we are attracting, right? When we are thinking. So if we are thinking of something good, we will attract good spirits. And the same in this Halloween time, if we are attracting good spirit, we'll be doing good stuff. So it's very important since in early age, like we are teaching the kids how to separate and know this law of action and reaction, law of the effects, right? We even said to them, let us sow seeds of love so that in the future you can bring something good to you. And it's the same as you just finishing wrapping up with charity. So let us sow the seeds of charity so we can collect something good in the future.
Yes, so important. For example, Mentor Joseph always reminds us, be generous, go beyond it. Because usually our society plays this role that is very, it's like the poverty mind. It's like, I only give to those who give me, so then nobody's going to give anything. We're not talking about giving to the people who are in need. Sometimes it's a teacher that says, oh, I have cancer. What do? You don't say, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Say, count on my prayers. Count on my prayers. Bring a flower to the teacher. Don't be cheap. Don't be cheap. The other day I heard a girl had a hard time. The parents were divorcing, and the girl couldn't come to a birthday party. Well, then give her the goodie bag anyhow because she wanted to come, but she couldn't because the parents were a mess. And the girl, she said, I brought the goodie bag. I never expected it was going to have such an effect on my friend. She felt so well. Probably she was so happy after so many months of distress and sadness in the family. So sometimes we're so cheap that we calculate. little things. We only give calculating what we're going to get back. But being generous, think of how abundant and generous God is. God doesn't count like, I'm not only going to give if you give back, if you multiply. God keeps giving, 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 life after life, day after day. And here we are, often taking it all for granted or something for granted, while God is continuously generous. And it's not only about the physical, material, but mostly about ourselves. Sometimes we don't give much of ourselves. We smile, half a smile. Smile with your whole heart. Be intense in terms of like, put yourself, your whole self out there. Remember Chico Xavier, he was not like the half good. He was the good in itself. I remember our dear Divaldo Franco, whenever we were around him, he was intense. And I say intense because he was fully present, mindful. Wherever he was fully there. He was not there like meditating and thinking about something else. He was fully there, paying attention to the waiter, the waitress, the person of the 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 airline check-in receptionist or whomever, fully there, giving of himself. And that's the secret of life. We will only be happy when we're constantly present, mindful, and wholeheartedly there, making connections with the good spirits who are always awaiting our goodwill to prevail, to make the good prevail on earth. Right? All right, friends. So I think now we can pray together, expressing our gratitude to God for the opportunity of learning so much with Spiritism. And as Mentor Joseph said the other day, and I share with all of you, Spiritism is expanding so much on earth, especially in English, that the prediction of the spirits is that in 10 years, Spiritism in English will be so widespread that it's going to be more popular than even in Portuguese. It's a good thing to await. Recently, when we had the world event coordinated by Giraldo Lemos Neto's group, there were 28 broadcasters, channels broadcasting everything in Portuguese and in English. Kardec Radio was one of them, and Kardec Radio made the 8th place in terms of audience. And that's a big deal for us, not because of Kardec Radio itself, but showing how Spiritism in English is really conquering grounds around the world. And in 10 years max, it shall be the number one audience, not Kardec Radio, but the Spiritism in English. So let's rejoice, because if you're connected here, you are part of it all, and you can help as well. And if you're listening to this and you want to do something or do more, connect to us at kardecradio@gmail.com. Let's talk more, because there's a whole lot more to be done. All right? So let us do our prayer and wrap up with the golden key of gratitude, friends. Thank you, loving God, for new perspectives, for hope and optimism, for the good that is conquering grounds in all of our hearts. We believe in the good because you are all there is. We have no doubt that love is supreme and it reigns in all of us. We exist because of you, because of your love, and your love spreads itself out. We are mesmerized with your continuous creation that is still unexplainable to scientists on Earth. We're happy to know that you granted us the opportunity to peek on a new planet beyond our galaxy for the first time this week. How fascinating. Feel like children advancing our capabilities. Meanwhile, suffering is still so prevalent. Our planet needs so much loving care. We need to cool down the planet, cooling the flames of hatred and ignorance to counterbalance this global warming. And to tame the pandemic, we need more charity, which is all about the good, all about love, all about the kindness to one another that we need so much, to show how much we care, to be transparent, honest, and sincere, and never be shy in reaching out to all who need a helping hand and show our support. And we thank everyone in two realms who have been supporting us, helping us, caring for us, especially you and your designated governor for the earth, Master Jesus. May the serenity of his loving heart envelop all of us in the waters of serenity, harmonizing our minds in gratitude. Glory to you, God. And may goodwill prevail on earth so we can achieve the dreamed peace in all of our hearts. And so be it. Our dear friend John the Rosa is saying, examine what we think about throughout our day. Then keep those that are good and kind and discard from our minds those that can damage ourselves and others in some minor or major way. Then this will ensure your physical and spiritual health into eternity. Thank you, John. Thank you, Christina from London. Thank you, our dear Narciso and Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Sol. Thank you, friends. We wish you a lovely night or day, depending on where you are. And let's stay tuned because Kardec Radio is really nourishing our souls. Thank you, friends.